Hey guys, welcome to the webinar. And I'm just going to dive right in. One thing I hate about webinars is that this long introduction and you never really get into the material. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to open up my PowerPoint right now. Okay, good. I got it. Awesome. It works. Okay, good. All right, we're going to talk about blood sugars, diabetes, and insulin. The only eating plan that makes sense, okay? Real quickly, who am I? I'm Dr. Eric Berg, been practicing for 27 years. I'm a chiropractor, health educator. I don't do chiropractic anymore. I do more basically health education and nutrition. I worked in my clinic on over 45,000 people over the 27 years, taught at Howard University as an associate professor in the nutrition department, best-selling author, The 7 Principles of Fat Burning. Don't get that book because there's a new one coming out in January with lots of updates. I've trained over 2,500 doctors in alternative medicine, including many medical doctors. So I actually train medical doctors in alternative healthcare. I've delivered over 4,900 seminars to a lot of different agencies, governmental agencies, churches, other groups over the years. I like to teach people. Right now, I'm doing a lot of YouTube videos on health, every possible subject of health. I have over 1,326 million views. I get about 2.5 million views every single 28 days. Excuse me. And I'm also the developer of the 4-body type philosophy of weight loss. Okay, now just as a personal thing, the reason I got into this, which is actually a really good thing, I got really sick. When I was a kid, the only thing that I ate is sugar. I was a sugar fiend. I would just stand on the cupboards looking for sugar and I never ate one vegetable until I was 21 years old. Well, it caught up with me. I had hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, when I was 11. And it kept getting worse, 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 worse. I got into wrestling. I went to state. I would be undefeated for the first part of the season, and I would be completely exhausted at the last part because my nutrition was so bad, not to mention trying to cut weight. Joined the military. I barely passed the PT test after basic training because of the amount of stress I was under at that time and no sleep. And of course, they fed you a lot of sugar. So anyway, I was going along. I started getting arthritis, digestive problems, insomnia. When I hit 28, that's when I hit my lowest point of my life. I was a mess. Okay, so to make a long story short, that forced me out of necessity to find other solutions to see if I could help myself. And since then, I've been obsessively studying nutrition and learning about the body and teaching how the body works and researching like 24/7. So that's pretty much all I do. I like to teach the truth about health. And in this presentation, we're going to get right into a really important subject that relates to insulin and blood sugars. And if you follow these recommendations, not only can you improve your blood sugar profile and maybe even reverse your insulin situation or your diabetic situation, but you can definitely be a lot closer to preventing diabetes. Now, I'm not making any claims that's against the law, so this is my disclaimer. If you have any medical conditions, check with your doctor before applying any of these recommendations, okay? This is just food for thought, and if you get better, don't blame it on me. All right, good. So the root of the problem, I always like to get to the root of it, has to do with insulin. Okay, so if we have a diabetic or a pre-diabetic or a hypoglycemic person, insulin is at the root of the problem. Now, what's interesting about insulin, and I'm going to define that in a second, so if anyone doesn't know what that means, I'll get to it, is that the body will do everything it can to maintain normal blood values. Okay, it does everything. It needs to be at a very constant rate. It does not like to vary. And so insulin is that hormone that helps stabilize the blood sugars to maintain this constancy, okay, a very narrow band. So insulin really has to work really hard at, it's basically it lowers the blood sugar, okay? So let me just show you a picture of what it does. Here's a picture of the pancreas. That's a gland underneath your left rib cage, and it's a small gland that secretes this hormone called insulin that then is triggered in response to carbohydrates, especially in the form of sugar and wine and juice and these other things. And what its job is to get the excess sugar out of the blood, okay? That's what it does. Why? Why is it so important? Because when you have high sugars, it's very, very dangerous. Apparently sugar is very bad on the body. So, I mean, like, take a look. Let's take an out of control diabetic. What do they have? They go blind. Their feet fall off. They get gangrene. They get clogged arteries. They get strokes. So it's very bad to have too much sugar in the body. So insulin has to work hard to clean it out. Okay? So insulin lowers the sugar in the blood. Okay? Got that? Now, what does it do with it after it lowers, like when it gets out of the blood, what does it do with it? That's the question. Where does it go? Well, the body has three main ways that it gets rid of this sugar. Okay, number one, it drives it into the cell. Now, that's a good thing because we need some insulin. We need some insulin. We just don't need too much. You can't live without insulin. So one of the functions is removing it from the blood and then putting it into the cell as like a nutrition, like a fuel. So your body can run on glucose or sugar. Okay, that's purpose number one. Number two, it also stores the sugar as stored sugar. It's called glycogen. What is glycogen? It's basically a bunch of little, you can see on this chart, these little glucose molecules attached. So it's a bunch of sugar attached, okay? And that's called stored sugar or glycogen. It's stored in the liver and stored in the muscles. The reason why you have stored glycogen is it's a quick release of sugar if you need it fast. If you're running down the street, something like that, you need quick energy. Then we have stored as fat. Okay, so that's more for a rainy day if you need it later. So insulin feeds the cells, stores sugar as stored sugar called glycogen, or it stores sugar as fat, especially if there's any excess. Okay, got that? Three main purposes. Good, we're making good time here. Now, so the fuel that goes in the cell is fed by sugar, but here's the thing. Sometimes people think they have to eat sugar to get sugar, but everything pretty much you eat turns into sugar eventually, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, we want a nice slow input of fuel to the cells. Okay? All right, so we got the basics because I'm going to build on this. So it drives sugar into the cell, into your brain, into the muscle, into the liver. It converts sugar into stored sugar. And it also converts sugar into fat, cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, LDL, and triglycerides, which are blood fats. So if you have high cholesterol, if you have high triglycerides, we know that you have too much sugar in the diet. And this is the confusing thing for people because they've been taught that it's the cholesterol that you're eating that causes high cholesterol. More on this later, but that's not true. It's the sugar. I can prove it. All you have to do is cut out the sugar and your cholesterol will come right down, and so will the triglycerides. Now let's just kind of keep defining things so you really get a grasp on what a normal blood sugar means. Because when you go to the doctor, you take, oh yeah, your blood sugars are normal. What does that mean? Well, normal is roughly between 90 and 100. It could be like a 90 to 110. Okay, that's considered normal. But see, it's a narrow band. The body doesn't like to go too high or too low. So what that means is you basically have 1 teaspoon of sugar in your entire body, into your entire blood. So the ratio of 1 teaspoon per all of your blood, which is 1 1/3 gallon of blood, okay, that's the dilution or the ratio of sugar you really need. So is that a lot or is that a little? That's a very tiny amount. So you don't need a lot of sugar, do you? So basically that's, now you know if your blood sugars are normal, then basically that's kind of the ratio. It's just a very slight amount of sugar. People are surprised. Okay, now, what happens when you eat too much sugar? Okay, the sugar rises, and that's called hyperglycemia. Hyper meaning high, glycemia meaning sugar. That's diabetes, if your sugar is too high. Okay, now normally the sugar does increase after you eat, but it's just not going to go too high. And it kind of might go up and it kind of goes down because the insulin's coming in there. But when you lose control of insulin and it goes too high, that's called diabetes or hyperglycemia. Okay? Now, when it goes too low, it's called hypoglycemia. Let me explain what happens. Hypoglycemia is a pre-diabetic situation. So at first, you know, when you eat sugar, like me when I was 11, eating tons of sugar, the insulin would come in really hard and push the sugar down way too far, okay? And end up with like lightheadedness, blood sugar, feeling kind of irritable, craving sweets. All those are hypoglycemic symptoms, okay? Make sense? So here's the problem. When you eat too much sugar over too much time, you develop hypoglycemia, then something called insulin resistance. Basically, it's a situation your body's blocking insulin, it doesn't accept it anymore. And then you get diabetes type 2, and then you get diabetes type 1. Okay, that's the kind of the worsening of this spiral. When I talked about this in the blog, I had some people disagree with some of the data. They says, well, wait a second. No, diabetes type 2 doesn't turn into type 1. That's what they said. They say type 1 is a genetic thing or it's an autoimmune. Well, that's basically, they're telling you that because that's what they've been told on some websites. I will guarantee that type 2 can turn into type 1. If you take a diabetic type 2, I mean, think about what happens to type 2s. They get worse. And what do the doctors give them? They inject them with insulin eventually. They are taking insulin. So now they actually, because they run out, and they become a type 1. It's very common. Now, is it true that you can have other causes? Absolutely. Autoimmune is one. Okay, so your body's attacking it. But the question is, what causes autoimmune? They don't know. But I observe an interesting thing that happens with diabetics that turn into type 1, and it's nearly always, actually it's not nearly, it's always, in my observation, it's always occurring after a stress event, okay? Some shock stress, could be loss of a loved one, some stress. Like, I'll give you an example. I know this guy, he had Bell's palsy where he lost the feeling on one side of his face. It's a nerve that started atrophying. So they injected a steroid shot, okay? That's adrenal hormones. And then he ended up with type 1 diabetes, autoimmune. So that injection shocked the system because it was too much a drug, okay? So that's just an example. All right, so I just wanted to clear that up. But check this out. An average American consumes 31 teaspoons of sugar every single day. Now, that is freaking crazy. See why we get diabetes? I mean, for someone to say that, oh, diabetes doesn't come from eating too much sugar, or it doesn't come from anything other that's genetic or autoimmune, well, wait a second. It's completely illogical because so many people consume so much sugar. Don't you think that's having an impact? Don't you think that's the most likely cause of this problem? I mean, it's in everything you eat. It does affect your body. I mean, it's the obvious thing. So what happens when you consume too much sugar too long, your body considers it a poison. So it's going to reject it. Remember, because your body's trying to keep the normal insulin at 90 to 100. It doesn't like to go too high or up too low. So what happens is that the thing that receives the insulin, it's called a receptor for insulin, starts to block the insulin. Okay, starts to resist it. So it's kind of like if you were to be around someone that talks so much and they never shut up. They keep talking. Eventually, you're going to phase them out. You're going to ignore them. Well, the thing is, when you ignore anyone, guess what they do? They start talking more. They increase the volume, don't they? Try to ignore someone. Try to ignore your spouse and see what they do. They'll start talking louder. Now, so what happens, you develop a condition called insulin resistance, which is basically the cells are resisting insulin. So what's going to happen to inside the cell, we're not going to drive the sugar in there anymore. So we're going to basically starve the cell, the brain, the muscle of fuel. Okay? That's where you get the cravings. That's where you get the fatigue. That's where you get the feeling of not being satisfied after you eat. Okay? But what happens, a signal is sent back to the pancreas, and it's going to tell the pancreas, hey, we have a low insulin, increase more. So insulin resistance is a situation where the body is resisting insulin, and it's a situation where you have, in certain parts of your body, too much insulin, and other places, not enough insulin. Now, if we don't have enough insulin in the blood, what's going to happen to the high sugar? It's going to keep going higher. That's called diabetes. So all diabetic cases have insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a pre-diabetic. It happens right after hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia, insulin resistance, diabetes type 2. Okay? And insulin resistance is really interesting because when it starts off small and then it gets worse, right? So when it first starts off, you might go to the doctor and get your blood test and it might be normal because your body's still not that bad. Okay, it's resisting it a little bit, so the insulin's going higher to compensate for the low insulin inside the cell, but we still have normal values. Then what happens? Over a period of time, it gets worse to the point where now it's started affecting your blood sugars. The reason I'm saying this is that this is very difficult to test for when you check blood sugars, because you go to the doctor, he says, oh, we checked your blood sugars. We checked your A1C, which is an average blood sugars for 3 months. And everything's normal. You don't have any problem. Yeah, but you might have insulin resistance because you could have, it's like a pre-diabetic state. So what I suggest you do if you have these symptoms is go get a fasting insulin assessment or test. Not a fasting glucose, but a fasting insulin, because that's going to show a lot more insulin in your blood, even though it might not be affecting it because your body's compensating. It's a really good test. So a real true insulin resistant case has 5 to 7 times more insulin than a normal person. So that's how you would diagnose it, okay? All right, so now, let me just come back here for a second. When you become a diabetic type 2, you see that receptor right there? That receptor, when you're type 2, is really resisting it. So what happens, you take either metformin or glucophage, the medication, which makes the receptor more receptive and makes the glucose work better and the insulin work better. And that's how diabetes type 2 medication works. It doesn't give you insulin, it just makes the insulin work better in the body. Okay? The problem is that it's doing it artificially. It's forcing your body to accept something it's trying to reject. So it has side effects. But the point is that that's how diabetes type 2 medication works. Okay, so look at this. Here we got the pancreas. You eat a big carbohydrate meal. It says, uh-oh, we better secrete insulin to get it out of the blood, right? Well, you have insulin resistance, and then it blocks the low blood sugar, but it's going to actually, the low insulin will create low blood sugar inside the cell, inside the brain, inside the muscle, but it creates high sugar in the blood. So you got certain places that are too high, certain places too low. Okay, that's why it's confusing. But now I hope I helped you understand a bit how this works. But Like again, if you're getting a poor acknowledgement, like someone's not acknowledging you, you'll tend to talk more. That's insulin resistance, okay? So if we take a normal cell on your left and an insulin resistant cell, you can see the cell has starving of fuel, okay, on insulin resistance. And here are the symptoms. Belly fat. Any belly fat is coming from insulin. Okay, that's an insulin belly. If I look around and see someone with a fat belly, I instantly know they have too much insulin, okay? Fatty liver. Yeah, people that have big bellies have fatty liver. They go hand in hand. Brain fog. Belly bloats and swells. Sleepy after meals. Classic. Not satisfied after meals. Need a little something sweet. High blood pressure. Cravings for carbs and sweets. Inflammation. Urination frequency at night. Cannot go without sleeping from one meal. I'm sorry, cannot go without eating from one meal to the next. Excessive hunger because the cells are starving. Forced to be having a snack at night or between meals. Okay, these are all symptoms of insulin resistance. Now, some of you have these symptoms. So make notes as we go through this because I'm going to show you how to correct this system. If I could do anything for anyone, this would be probably the most valuable because I can prevent a lot of problems down the road, as you're going to see, just by getting the diet corrected now. Okay, diet and nutrition. So we correct that and you can prevent a lot of problems and you can clear up a lot of these issues, and it's not very hard. It's very easy if you know, if you understand. Some people, I'm not going to mention any names or professions, would like you to believe that once you get it, you can't get rid of it, and you're stuck with it, there's no cure, no one understands it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't buy that. So we talked about this. People with insulin resistance have higher fasting insulin, 5 to 7 times. Yeah, normal. That's incredible. Now, I just have to define, again, let's just define diabetes type 2. Type 2 is that insulin receptor problem. Your body's not accepting it, so we don't get the return communication. So then it's like insulin resistance, more severe, because now the blood sugars are going to go higher. So it's high sugar because the cells are not receiving insulin, and your body's pumping out more, but the insulin is not working like it should. That's type 2. So, I mean, you could give someone insulin to help this, but it's like using a sledgehammer because you don't need to do that. So what they do is they give you another medication to fix the receptors for insulin to make them work better. And a lot of this happens in the liver, okay? And I'll get into that in about 3 slides, but the liver is a real key organ in correcting diabetes. Now, when you have type 2, you can also then turn into type 1. And again, this can be coming from other causes too, like stress. We'll get into that. But I'm talking about, in this case, it coming from the diet, eating too much sugar too long and not changing your ways. So now here's diabetes type 1 is where the pancreas is completely exhausted and it doesn't have any more insulin. So therefore, guess what's going to happen to your blood sugars? It's going to go way, way higher, really high, and that's dangerous. And when you don't have insulin, you're going to have it injected, okay? So they have to control every time they eat. It's a problem. So now we have out of control blood sugars, okay? That's what type 1 is. Now check this out. There's more effects of insulin, more side effects from insulin. Look at this, dementia. Insulin causes amyloid plaquing on the brain, causing dementia in Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, okay? It's like Alzheimer's is like diabetes type 3. Then it will actually clog arteries, causing a stroke. It makes weak blood vessels because it does control the proteins in the body, and you get an aneurysm or a stroke. So we get a clog, the artery blows out, having a stroke, or it gets clogged in the brain and you get a stroke. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, a fatty liver, diabetes, heart disease, clogged arteries. These are all symptoms. They're not diseases. They're symptoms of insulin. See, what I told you before is if we could correct and heal insulin, we can prevent a lot of problems. And I like the simplicity of focusing on one thing. And you will see, not only are you going to lose weight and what I'm going to tell you to do, but you can actually correct a lot of problems with blood sugars. And have I ever helped anyone with blood sugars? This is a sensitive area because I can get in trouble if I help too many people. So I'm just going to tell you that I've had a lot of people who I've worked with the help of their doctors. I have to stick that in there. You know, because the doctor controls the medication part. I'm controlling the food part and the eating and the health. So I've taken help women, or this several women that I know that were actually had very, very bad type 1 diabetics, okay? And then they went from type 1, type 2, and now they're off all the medication completely, okay? But again, I'm not going to make any claims because I don't want to step on any toes, if you know what I mean. But there's a lot of my clients were type 2 and they're off all their medication. Type 2 is a lot easier. Type 1, you can still work with them. But again, if you're going to do this, suggest it with your doctor before making any changes. Again, it's a very profitable industry, and again, they don't like anyone, you know, creating conflicting information. But I think it's good that you're educated in this so you can make a choice because it's your body. And my whole goal is to give you the information to think with and research further. Okay, now check this out. We got the liver, which is 100 times bigger than the pancreas. Okay, so it's a huge organ on the right rib cage. The liver controls blood sugars when you do not eat. The pancreas controls blood sugars when you're eating. So they reciprocate back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now let me ask you a question. How much more time do you eat versus when you don't eat? Well, you might say, well, I eat all day long. Yeah, well, that's the problem. Because the liver is bigger because it has to maintain this blood sugars between eating. And it produces a hormone called insulin-like growth factor, number 1. And so that's the hormone that basically mobilizes stored sugar and fat and then raises the sugar, and then insulin brings sugar down. So we have this nice little balance. If you were just to improve liver function by 20%, you can improve the pancreatic function by 80%. And that's just something I've stumbled on. And we'll talk about what to do, but I just want you to get the concept of diabetes is not just a pancreas problem. It's a liver problem. It's an adrenal problem. It involves the whole body. But I'm really want to emphasize that you want to get the liver improved if you want to help diabetes or prevent it, especially since the liver more likely is filled with fat. If you have a gut, you have a fatty liver. If you have a fatty liver, it's going to take some time to undo this. It might take 3 years because it takes 3 years to fix a liver. And that's the problem, is sometimes, you know, even though you might feel better, it takes some time. Glycemic index. Glycemic index is an index that measures the blood sugars that basically it's measuring the reaction of carbohydrates to blood sugars. So if you eat jelly beans, for example, you'll have a sudden spike of blood sugars. If you eat celery, it's smaller, okay? So glycemic index is the scale of how fast carbohydrates can affect your blood sugars. Very simple, right? Most of you already know about this. So you can see you eat a carbohydrate, boom, it spikes. If you eat a low glycemic index food, it's very small, okay? But if you focus on the glycemic index, you've only focused on a very small piece of, not a very small, you only focused on 50% of the problem, because glucose is only half of the problem. And I didn't talk about this yet, but I'm going to get into this right now. So if you've checked out, check back in right now. I need your attention. And this is what you need to know. There are other things that affect insulin. There's an insulin index or a scale, non-carbohydrates. Okay? This is right out of Guyton's Physiology. This is the medical physiology textbook that I used when I went to school, and I used it in pre-med. Okay, and you can see the coffee stains because I used to drink massive amounts of coffee. I'm talking like pots of coffee to stay awake because I was so fatigued and so burnt out and didn't know anything about nutrition at the time. All I needed is I need coffee, and Cuban coffee. It finally caught up with me. Okay, so this is what I want to share with you. Right out of Guidance Physiology, there's a couple other things that trigger insulin. One is amino acids, which is protein, and the next one is gastrointestinal hormones, which is basically every time you eat. So protein and eating trigger insulin. Don't worry, it gets worse. Here's a scale. Look at how much beef can trigger insulin. Fish. Wow, it's huge. Now, if you combine sugar with protein, you can really spike insulin by more than 200%. So barbecued ribs, breaded meats, bun with the burger, fries with the burger, soda with the burger, ketchup with the burger, you're just spiking that insulin way over there. You're gonna have a lot of brain fog if that happens. Okay, so fruit will do it too. Fruit will increase the blood sugars. But here's the thing that I wanted to mention. It's not just any protein. It's specifically low-fat proteins trigger insulin way higher than fattier proteins. Now, think about this. You go to the grocery store and you look around. Fat-free cheese, fat-free yogurt, fat-free dressing, fat-free, like low-fat meat, lean chicken. Take the skin off, right? Do you realize that that is going to be worse for your blood sugars than having more fat? Because here's the interesting thing. On the insulin scale, which I'm going to go right here, look at what's very low on the insulin scale. Butter, olives, coconut, flax, heavy cream, pecans, avocado, bacon. In other words, the more fatty something is, the less response it has on your insulin. Okay? This goes against what you've been taught. This is huge. See, it's the thing that people haven't done yet. They haven't started eating fat. Okay, so let me show you something. If you had a choice, let's say you're a diabetic, and you had a choice between eating fat, full 100% fat-filled yogurt versus fat-free yogurt, go with the fattiest yogurt. If you had a choice between whey protein and whole milk cheese, go with the whole milk cheese. Go with the fattier cheese. If you had a choice between low-fat cheese and brie cheese, go with the brie cheese. Lean meat versus fatty meat, go with the fatty meat, go with the fatty meat. Turkey bacon versus other bacon, as long as it's like nitrate-free, hormone-free, go with the fattier bacon. Why? Because that will lower insulin. Wow, this is all getting very interesting, isn't it? Now, some of you are like, oh, but what about my cholesterol, right? Did you realize that your body makes cholesterol? It makes over 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol every single day. Let me tell you, that's the equivalent of 14 eggs, or a pound of butter, or 333 strips of bacon. When you eat less cholesterol foods, your body makes more. When you eat more, your body makes less. It has a feedback mechanism. I do 4 eggs a day, bacon, cheese, every single day. Of course, my cholesterol is 5,000. No, I'm just kidding. No, my cholesterol is roughly about 160, 170. It's well within a nice range. So your body makes that ton of cholesterol. Now, why? If cholesterol is so bad, why does it make it? Well, first of all, it's not bad. Secondly, it has a purpose. It has a purpose to actually make hormones, especially stress hormones. It actually helps heal. See, the cholesterol that comes into your arteries, it comes in to try to heal some type of microhemorrhage or bleeding hemorrhage in your artery wall. That's what it's trying to do. So it's trying to help you. It feeds the lens of the eye. So it feeds the hormones. So you need cholesterol. Okay? The bad thing is adding the sugar. That's what's converting the cholesterol. Okay. Now, we also talked about eating will stimulate insulin too, right? Check this out. Now, if you eat lunch, breakfast, and dinner, and then a snack, and a snack at night, you are raising insulin all day and all night. This is bad. We never have a chance for the liver to heal, and we're going to create insulin resistance, okay? Because we have too much insulin too long. Now, I am guilty of, in my book, telling you to consume snacks between meals. I no longer recommend that. That's bad advice, and I'm correcting myself now. I'm sorry about that, because it's not the right advice. It's much better to have 3 meals, no snacks. Now, the problem is if you have insulin resistance, you're going to have a hard time going from one meal to the next because you're going to get hungry. So what you want to do is you want to add fat to the meal so you can go longer without eating. Okay? Now, I just went to the farmer's market last week, and I bought some really high-quality grass-fed pork sausage. Okay? Now, it's $12.40 right now, and I had breakfast at 8 o'clock. Okay? I had the pork sausage. I had 3 links. I had 4 eggs and some cheese. I am not hungry right now at all. Like, I am so satisfied. My system, I'm actually feeling great. I don't feel hungry at all. So I'll probably eat maybe in another 2 hours. But the point is that you want to go longer. When I first started this, I could barely go for an hour without needing a snack because I didn't have enough fat. You cannot fix diabetes without fat. You can't fix insulin resistance by doing a lean piece of protein and a salad. Why? Because you're going to be starving all the time. I went to a restaurant a month ago, ordered a steak and a huge salad, and they brought me a steak, and I was starving like 10 minutes later. I'm like, oh my God, I need some fat. Okay? Now, this goes against what you've been taught, but this principle will really, 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 really work. Okay? Okay, so what kind of fats? Olives, coconut oil, peanut butter, nuts, brie cheese, all really good fats. Okay? Now, when you wake up in the morning and you're not hungry, don't eat. Do not eat. Why? Because your body's eating your belly all night long. It's eating your fat. Why would you eat? You're going to spike your insulin again. It's going to drop down. You're going to get hungry. So this idea that eating stimulates metabolism is bad advice. It's not true. It actually just increases your hunger. Don't eat if you're not hungry. So let's say you eat at lunch as your first meal. Just do 2 meals a day. It's going to be fine. You're not going to lose muscle protein. But the key is not to snack anymore. So there's 3 meals a day. And here's 2 meals a day. So we want you to eat and then to switch over for the liver so you can burn fat, and then burn up to the pancreas, you burn sugar, burn fat, back and forth. We want this insulin switch to work again. So we want to heal it. There's a couple different ways. We want to heal it from food and nutrition. What else can stimulate insulin resistance? Cortisol. What's cortisol? It's a stress hormone. So stress will increase insulin. Why? Because cortisol breaks down protein in your body protein, and it converts it into sugar, which then increases insulin. So, we know that cortisol causes belly fat, but through insulin. Insulin's the real culprit. So we want to lower stress as well. Some people have the perfect diet. They're just stressed out, and they need to fix that. Okay? Causes of insulin resistance, we've got the diet, too much protein Combination of protein and sugar, snacks between meals, and stress. These are the culprits right here. Insulin is a dominating hormone, and in that and this is interesting, if you checked out, check back in, because this is another important point. All it takes is a very tiny bit of insulin to block a lot of fat-burning hormones. So let's say your diet was perfect, okay? You're exercising, and you have a little bit of juice, a half a cup of juice a day. That is enough insulin spike to bump you out of fat burning for 48 hours, especially if your metabolism is slow. All it takes is a tiny bit of the wrong thing to destroy this fat burning process. So the key to doing this is to bring your sugars down to 0. Okay, I didn't say carbohydrates. I said your sugars. Don't eat sugar. Okay, exercise is also good to stabilize blood sugars. Long walks is really good, but exercise will help you. But if you're an exercise person, like you really hardcore exercise, you may need 3 meals a day. But test it out, you might not. Stress, we talked about that. Nutrition. These are the 2 nutritional products that I use for blood sugar cases. Why? Because the whole cruciferous food is the one that supports the liver. It supports a healthy liver. It helps the fat on the liver, helps it, come off. It's a combination of 5 organic cruciferous with 6 additional vegetables, including turmeric and garlic and sea kelp and all sorts of really good things, asparagus, and all these other cruciferous like kale, broccoli radish, cauliflower, cabbage. And those foods have additional health properties to support the liver and help heal the liver, okay? So it's a bottle of 250 tablets. It's pretty amazing. But that's the one that we use for liver function, for blood sugars. It works really, really good. You're going to have energy. So I use it for liver support and increasing your energy because a lot of people have a hard time consuming all those different types of vegetables, okay? The other thing I use is raw wheatgrass juice. Why? Because wheatgrass has amazing nutrition, tons of potassium. It's a highly concentrated, nutrient-dense product that supports potassium and nutrition for the cells. Potassium, and we'll get into this when we get into food, potassium decreases the need for insulin, so it raises it. So 1 teaspoon of this is equivalent to a tray of wheatgrass, 20 inches by 12 inches in 1 teaspoon. So you drink that and you're getting massive amounts of nutrition in just a small little glass. But I like to put it in a little shaker bottle, shake it up, and then drink it in the morning, and then I do it at night too. I've seen amazing results with blood sugars with using wheatgrass. Wheatgrass, if you think too about what happens to diabetics, to their neurological, like their eyes and their feet, they get these ulcers, they get all sorts of things. This is what I can apply topically to help that as well. But we have them take it orally, and it goes in there, and it really helps to bring down their sugars. So, and I'll show you some references on the effect of high blood sugars on wheatgrass. It's really a good combination. Okay, so we want to avoid fruit, grains, including oatmeal, starches, potato, even plain yogurt has like 10 grams of sugar. Crazy. Alcohol, cut it out. It's not good for your blood sugars. I'm sorry. Look at an apple has 19 grams of sugar. It's like eating a candy bar. Now that I took all your sugar away, I just want to let you know there are substitute pleasure foods that you can make with really good recipes, and you can eat only with your meal, not between, so you don't feel the need for giving up all the pleasure in your life, okay? So there are some great recipes that are available to little candy bars and ice cream and all sorts of things. So you can do this, okay? So I don't like to say you can't have something. I just like to replace it with something a little bit better. But here's the thing. Potassium is the most important mineral with diabetes and blood sugars because it takes potassium to store sugar in the liver. Okay, without potassium, you can't store the sugar. So you constantly have blood sugar issues. If I increase the potassium in your diet, your cravings will go away because it stabilizes your blood sugars. When you are in fat burning and you're not burning any more sugar, you don't have cravings. That's how you know you don't have insulin resistance anymore. Your cravings go away. So potassium, you'd have to have 10 bananas or 5 avocados every single day to get your potassium because you need 4,700 milligrams. That's a lot because one banana is only 300. So I'm going to recommend you get it from salad instead. Like 7 to 10 cups of salad a day will give you all the potassium you need and all the other nutrients as well. Here's an example. You see those bags of salad you can get at the store? That's like 7 ounces. 7 ounces is 7 cups. Okay? Or the plastic containers, usually 8 ounces, that's like 8 cups. So 1 ounce equals 1 cup. That's the quantity of vegetable that you need every single day. There's my breakfast. You don't have to eat that much. That's avocado in the background. You want to have between 3 to 6 ounces of protein per meal. Okay? You don't need a lot, just a little bit. Intermittent fasting, a great powerful tool for blood sugars. 2 to 3 meals a day only, no snacking. Add fat if you are hungry so you can go longer. Not a problem. I also like to consume apple cider vinegar and lemon as a drink with a meal. Why? Because when you do this, you're switching your body from sugar fuel to fat burning. In the process, you may be more susceptible to the kidney stone. So if you do lemon of each day and apple cider vinegar, this can easily flush out and clean and prevent kidney stone development. Also, apple cider vinegar helps to speed up the fat coming off your liver. Okay, so it's really good for this program. Drink it with a straw so it doesn't mess up your teeth. Okay, do 2 to 3, like 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar per cup, and 1 to 2 tablespoons of lemon or lime per cup. Okay, real simple. Drink it with a straw. Boom, you're good. So let's take a look at what a meal looks like. You have the vegetable, the protein, and the fat. Those 3 things. You notice I left out the starch, right? But this is brie cheese. Brie cheese is great to get you to go longer without eating. Okay. Here's an example of a week of meals. Look at, I have eggs, bacon, avocado with the drink. I have a kale shake as my salad, fish, brie cheese. Here's a salad, burger without the bun, peanut butter or almond butter. Here's another salad, chicken wings, olives. Here's a salad with fish with avocado. And then we just repeat it with dinner. 3 meals, okay? So you're not starving because you're eating fat. You're going long periods of time without eating at night, but you're not snacking anymore. This is the fastest way to reverse blood sugar issues, and it's the fastest way to lose weight. This eating plan that I'm showing you for blood sugars is the same thing with losing weight because you're lowering insulin, and insulin is the key hormone involved with that. Now, at my seminars, or our webinars, we always give people a discount. Okay, so if you want to get these 2 products today, I will give you a discount, 10% off, and I will also give you a new ebook that I created that shows you the details of what to eat, and it shows you the details of what we talked about in this webinar with blood sugars. Everything we talked about is in this booklet, okay? It's a cool little booklet. It's a digital thing, instant download. So if you get these 2 products today, it comes with the cool bonus, all right? I also have these 3 references that show the relationship between wheatgrass research on animals and humans and the effect of what it does to your blood sugars. It's a very powerful blood sugar control nutrition, okay? So the cool thing is they're food-based, they're not synthetics. So this is like raw wheatgrass juice, nothing heated over 106 degrees. It's grown on an ancient seabed, so it has all the trace minerals, an old ocean floor. So it's raw, it's highly concentrated, and it has tons and tons of chlorophyll. Okay, and then it's 100% certified organic. This is also all organic ingredients. The only thing is the capsule has gelatin. We're changing that, but you can just open it up if you have attention on that. But all the ingredients are organic. Okay, so if you're interested in getting the discount, click below and check it out. And then I will also send you an email with this booklet. All right? So I hope you learned something in this webinar. There's a lot of great information. If you don't want to get this, it's fine. Just apply the information and get the results as much as possible. But I want to thank you for your attention. I want to thank you for your interest this long. You made it this far. And I appreciate you. And I will see you in some upcoming webinars real soon. So I hope you have a wonderful result from what I just taught you. Okay? All right. We'll see you guys later.